Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the June 24th, 2024 Township Committee meeting held at 7 o'clock p.m. here at the Municipal Building, 770 Coopertown Road. Can I have a roll call, please, Janice?
Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Mr. Olet.
Here.
Ms. Seuss. Here. Mr. Templeton.
Here.
Mr. Bartlett.
Here, also present, Mr. Schwab, our Township Administrator, Mrs. Lohr, our Municipal Clerk, Mrs. Russell, our Deputy Municipal Clerk, Lieutenant Warren filling in for the Chief, and Mr. Taylor, our Town Planner. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence in remembrance of Aurelio Conigliaro, who we lost last Thursday. Thank you. Elio was only 55 years old. He passed away after a 5-year battle with cancer, which he fought with grace and humility. Elio arrived in America at the age of 19 from Carini, which is in Sicily, and dedicated over 30 years as the owner of Vinny's Pizza right here in Delanco. But he was so much more. He was a devoted family man, and his children were the light of his life, and we send our prayers to his wife Maria and his children Marcia and Davide. Personally, I'm going to miss walking in there and hearing him yell at me, "Hey, Bartoletto, que se dice?" Apparently that means, "How you doing?" Yeah. In the 20 years I've known him, whenever I saw him, he'd always say, "Hey, when are you going to be the mayor?" That was like decades before I even decided to run for office, so I'm certainly going to miss that. He was a guy who definitely should have been the mayor. He knew virtually everybody in this town, and virtually everybody knew and loved and will still love him. Services are going to be Wednesday morning at Good Shepherd Church in Beverly, if anybody wants to attend. It's going to be at 10 o'clock. With that, Janice, can we have the sunshine statement, please?
Please be advised that proper notice of this meeting has been given in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act in the following manner. Written notice has been mailed to the Burlington County Times and Courier Post and published in the January 4th, 2024 editions. And written notice has been posted on the official bulletin board of the Township of Delanco at least 48 hours prior to the meeting. This meeting of the Delanco Township Committee may be transmitted via live stream on YouTube video. The streaming of the meeting is not intended to be relied upon as formal public access under the Open Public Meetings Act, and if the technology is disrupted for any reason, the Township meeting will proceed in person as an official meeting in accord with the official notice. Thank you.
Thank you. Now that the gang is all back together again after some vacations, everybody's hopefully all rested, we'll start with the first item on the agenda, Ordinance 2024-15, ordinance authorizing the installation of various capital improvements in and for the Township of Delanco, County of Burlington, New Jersey, appropriating the sum of $225,000 therefore from the Capital Improvement Fund and $239,360 from a State of New Jersey Road Aid Grant. This is second reading by title only and public hearing. I will now open the hearing to the public for Ordinance 2024-15. If anyone has any questions or comments specifically to this ordinance, please approach the podium and give your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, will close this portion to the public, and I'll request, is there any comments or questions on the ordinance in committee? No. All good. All right, then I'll ask for a motion to adopt Ordinance 2024-15.
So moved.
Second.
Wow, that was a three-way tie, I think. We'll give it to Kate for this one. Carolyn and Kate. And roll call, please, Janice.
Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Mr. Olet.
Yes.
Ms. Seuss.
Yes.
Mr. Templeton.
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett.
Yes. All right, Ordinance 2024-16. With officially the longest title on the agenda. It is a bond ordinance of the Township of Delanco in the County of Burlington, authorizing the purchase and installation of technology improvements in the municipal building. The installation/replacement of storm drainage pipes on Hickory Street and along Delaware Avenue, improvements to recreation facilities at various parks, and the purchase of equipment for the police department, appropriating the total sum of $588,200, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $558,790 bonds or notes of the township for financing such appropriations, and making certain determinations and covenants, and authorizing certain related actions in connection with the foregoing. Second reading by title only and public hearing. And I'll now open this ordinance public hearing to the public. Again, if you have any comments or questions on this one, approach and give your name and address for the record. Seeing none, we'll close this public hearing. And any comments or questions on the motion? No. Or on the ordinance? Then I will ask for a motion, please.
So moved.
Kate?
Second.
And Fern. Roll call, please.
Ms. Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
Mr. Rolette?
Yes.
Ms. Seuss?
Yes.
Mr. Templeton? Mr. Bartlett?
Yes. All right, ordinance 2024-17, an ordinance authorizing the grant of real property license with respect to 309 Burlington Avenue at Block 1401, Lot 6, second reading by title only and public hearing. I'll open this ordinance for public hearing to the public. If you have any comments or questions, approach the podium, name and address for the record. Seeing none, we'll close this one to the public. Any comments or questions on the ordinance? I'll ask for a motion.
So moved. Second.
Carolyn and Kate, roll call, please.
Ms. Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
Mr. Rolette?
Yes.
Ms. Seuss?
Yes.
Mr. Templeton?
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett?
Yes. All right, next item up for bid, discussion item, conceptual plan for the historic waterfront park design. And with us is our special guest star this evening from Taylor Design Group, Scott Taylor, our township planner.
Sound like a game show.
Thank you, right?
Come on down.
I think we should give him a round of applause.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, great.
Scott, do you have a wireless mic up there?
Do I need a wireless mic?
No.
Only to pick you up on the recording and so the home audience can hear you. For us here, you certainly have a loud enough voice.
I warned you. I should not be giving the mic. Thank you. So I'm going to try to not block everybody's view.
And just for anybody watching at home, we'll post a photo of this on the website just so everyone could see. It's kind of positioned here so the in-person audience can see.
So just by way of reference, and this is a concept plan overlain on an aerial photograph in black and white. So on the left side of the screen is Willow Street. We have Delaware Ave running through the middle. We have Union on the far right-hand side. To the top is the river, obviously. And then Zerberg Mansion is here on the bottom part of the sketch. Basically, as all of you know, and you've authorized the seawalls under construction. We're in that process. The next step in that is the creation of the park. So part of the seawall project includes some concrete sidewalks along the walkway. We've coordinated with ERI. Some of those areas are not being constructed currently because we knew there were going to be some improvements that were coming in after the fact, so we have been trying to coordinate through that process. Overall, from a main standpoint, we looked at creating, and this is similar to concepts that we had presented in 2016, and I think even more recently, maybe 2019 or 20, where we are embracing the prior location of the pavilion structure, recreating that brick sidewalk that connects to that. The promontory in the seawall actually reflects that location. So we're showing a new picnic pavilion in that area, connecting the sidewalk. That will have some brick sidewalk underneath. We're looking at a structure that, it was such a unique wooden structure, trying to recreate that in wood would really be difficult and an enormous maintenance problem. So what we're doing is trying to do sort of a modern interpretation of that, something that would meet current codes for wind loading, et cetera, and have some, and draw upon some of those details for the pavilion. We're also anticipating having interpretive signage in a couple locations through the site. One of those stories we do want to tell we see this, and I'm drawing here in this section on the right-hand side. You can see moving from left to right in this project section. We are showing some lighting through the central portion to create a wash of lights along the promenade, but also use those same lights to light Delaware Ave. It's really sort of a dark area now, and we're confident that one row of lights for the center, if it was just enough of a glow. These will be fully recessed, full cutoff, dark sky compliant lights that will be 3,000 degrees Kelvin, so we're not creating that bluish glare against light while still providing some safe lighting levels throughout. We are also along the strong central axis of the Zerber Mansion. We're showing the potential for a mid-block crosswalk. That does require some specific signage. That's something we would need to coordinate with the township engineer's office. But we know folks are using that now considerably. And we're showing a connection there to a couple of benches and again, dedication plaque and overlook here. We designed, and let me jump back to the pavilion for a second. We designed the 16 by 16 pavilion to have a movable table in there that may have an inlaid chessboard, and then also 2 permanent benches in that location. We've laid it out and sized it so there could be a small event out there, there could be a small wedding, prom photographs, anything like that. We see this being a great spot for prom photos overlooking Delaware in this location. We'll probably do some hanging signage so when someone's under there, and they are doing those photo spots, there's a little bit of signage that's like New Jersey. So they post it everywhere. People go, that is so beautiful. What town is that? Everyone knows it's Delanco. We are showing benches in a number of locations. They all have accessible companion wheelchair seating next to them along the promenade. Accessible picnic tables in a number of locations. We're also, and we've been coordinating, we're trying to preserve, not really recently, but preserving as much as possible of the existing brick walls to try to incorporate those into the design. We have bike racks, litter and recycling receptacles. We also have fishing line recycling systems at both of the street ends. The initial plan is to not have fishing along this section of promenade because of that high level of pedestrian use can often conflict with fishing. So fishing would still, be happening at the street ends. So doing some fishing line retrieval there. Also at way stations, I think I said bicycle racks. And in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see we were looking to relocate the existing benches that and picnic table that had a bit of a modern feel to them to something that we felt was more appropriate and to the historic nature of the site. So we were looking at black benches, litter receptacles, bike racks, and also bench rail that would go along the top of the wall for the promenade. Showing a few notes of some low maintenance ground cover and also a couple of additional trees to be planted on the site. We know that we've had some tree removals in conjunction with the seawall construction. So to mitigate that, we're looking at showing 2 trees in here and again some low maintenance plantings. Interpretive signs, seawall benches, headway stations. We're also relocating right now the Little Free Library. It's actually buried back in the wall a little bit. It's not handicap accessible. So we're suggesting to shift that up closer to the sidewalk here on Delaware Ave so that it's handicap accessible as well. And again, bike racks at both ends. Did you write all of that?
She's not even a stenographer.
That was impressive. So that's the short version, and I can answer any questions that you may have.
That's
Just-
great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Just 2 quick things. Do you have a light in the actual pavilion that's going to be a motion sensor light?
We do, thank you for that. We
Yeah.
do. Whenever we do things like this, we generally recess the light in there so if the park is closed after hours. If someone goes in there, the light goes on, neighbors, the police, everyone know, hey, somebody's in there, usually that light turning on is enough to send folks elsewhere.
Right. We'd also like to have some surveillance cameras on the light posts as well to protect the area.
There is. So there's a seawall that runs along, and that seawall is at elevation 10, so it sits several feet up for resiliency, flood resiliency. And then there will be a 5-foot wide sidewalk, so sort of a riverfront promenade along the river. It does. So the sidewalk is at elevation 8. The top of the wall is 2 feet higher, that's at elevation 10. So the wall is actually a vinyl sheet pile system that has, like you see at some of the street ends, and then there is a poured concrete cap. So the top of that, there will be, I want to say it's 15 inches deep and about 16 or 18 inches wide, so there will be a concrete cap on top of that.
And Scott, the fence will be on the wall itself?
Yes, so the fence, so the guard requirement under the IBC is 42 inches. I'm going to use the table now. So the wall itself is about 2 feet high, and the guard needs to be a total of 42 inches or 3.5 feet. So the rail itself, this is about 13 inches. The rail itself will only be about 18 inches high on top of that wall. So it will be wall for 2 feet and then 18 inches of that, sort of fencing guide rail.
Good.
It's important that we nail this down because we need to have the fence installed as soon as the seawall is completed, or very shortly after. The park, we'd like to have go out to bid in December and award in January, and then start the construction in March to have it finished by May. But the fence needs to be done now, and when I mean now, as soon as the seawall is finished, for safety reasons. We can't leave it exposed all winter, so.
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, winter, with the ice during the winter that we experience out there on the Delaware, where ice backs up, and I've been to a couple parks where they've had taller fences, wrought iron, where they end up getting bent and destroyed, and then you end up with a maintenance issue. So with the fencing, do the rods can it be more like a split rail with metal versus the up and down?
So the IBC code requires a fence with balusters such that a 4-inch sphere cannot fit through any location.
Okay.
So even if we were putting like a 10 by 10 deck in the middle of the lawn area,
Uh-huh.
if that was raised 30 inches above the surrounding grades, we would have to do sort of that typical deck railing where you see those wood balusters every 4 inches on center, so that it can't pass through that. Not dissimilar to what you see around a swimming pool. The swimming pool has a similar parameter. And that 4 inches really has to do with 2 things. One, a child not being able to slip through there and fall out. But secondarily, not being able, there's also a trapping and choking issue that goes beyond that. So when you go a little wider than that, a child can actually get their head in there, and then it can create issues, which is why the code was changed about 30 years ago.
Yeah, because aesthetically, obviously, and it makes sense to do it that way, but unfortunately, he was explaining in our meeting, you can't do it in the public parks. Private, obviously, they can, but yeah.
So we're trying to keep the profile of that feature as low profile as possible.
Mhm.
The part of the code, it does have to be a firm railing. The code actually requires, I believe, it's 200 pounds of lateral pressure on that, so that somebody doesn't lean on it, push it over, and then we have somebody, I think the fall is anywhere from 6, I think maybe 10 feet at the highest point.
No, it's way We don't want to create something that's now a new attraction for someone to climb up and sit on. And if there's a feature, you described this, and down the shore, I've never seen a fence like this on any public bulkhead.
So
Down,
the whole Jersey City waterfront,
yeah,
if you go anywhere in Jersey City, if you go anywhere in New York City, in those instances, and what we had hoped for initially, was that the top of the seawall would be flat
right.
at elevation 10, and the rest of the park would be flat at elevation 10. And then you have a 42-inch high guard on top of that. To try to preserve and save all the trees that were out there, the existing site, we worked with Harry on this because we know how important the preservation of the trees were. The trees were saved by keeping the park elevation at around what it is existing now, around elevation 8. But to get that flood resiliency, the wall itself had to go to elevation 10.
I know, because I insisted on that.
Right, so what we would do, so right now, we have a wall that, these chairs are probably 20, 22 inches high, seating height. Perfect height for a kid to jump up and walk on, or people to sit on. What we would do is, in that area, we would cheat this fence to actually be as close as structurally possible to the park side of that, so there isn't room for anybody to even sit there, and trying to avoid even enough room for somebody to be able to walk. So we want to get that as close as possible to that edge to make it as safe as possible.
You're unbelievably optimistic on the capabilities of people to climb on things.
There's nothing in there. There's nothing in there.
That kids will climb up on this, they will climb over it, they may jump off of it. I raised 2 of them myself, so all we can do is the best we can.
I mean, I've had people trespass on my property and walk a toddler on the top of my seawall, and it's, you like, people just don't think. And that's my private property that people are doing that on. Yeah, whatever is selected, this material has to be bomb-proof, not, corrosion resistant, stainless steel, whatever. We don't need some maintenance item that we're going to have to pull it out 5 years from now and replace mounts and screws and everything else. The same with the pavilion, as was mentioned previously. I mean, that shoreline just gets the crap kicked out of it. And, debris, I mean, I find logs after big storms in my front yard. The table you mentioned, some mechanism, you said a movable table, something that bolts that down, that it could be, taken out, but something that it can be fixed as a permanent or semi-permanent feature, because, as we saw yesterday, the wind just will take things. And a private gazebo was destroyed yesterday. Hanging, flapping signs, that'll be
That would be a rigid patchwork.
that'll be in Willingboro.
We've actually used the same manufacturer in Avalon, and Avalon has an EPA wind rating of 120 miles per hour. We have several structures down there. One was constructed in 2004, so it has been through hurricanes and Sandy, and it is not working. So understood on that point. This will be a hugely durable, fully code compliant based on that EPA wind rating for this spot, because it is a windy spot.
And it's a steel structure, the roof is steel, and it also has a cupola at the top to allow, so you don't have that uplifting like an umbrella. The wind gets under it and takes it, so it actually will have an opening so that the wind can get through to prevent some of that uplifting that probably happened to the gazebo that fell.
Right.
Don't be bashful and buy the strongest thing you can get.
Duly noted, and we generally do, because of
Yeah.
spending 10% more on a project on the materials can actually make stuff last twice as long, and that's just good math. So much of the cost of these goes into the labor, so using a little bit better material really doesn't have a huge impact on the overall project. It has a huge on the maintenance, the safety, and the durability.
Yeah, this is an in-depth conversation we had last week. about the material of the fence, whether it should be aluminum, stainless steel. And I know you're working with some vendors to get some quotes, and we have to move pretty quickly on this, like literally in the next week or two, to figure out the design, nail down the design, make sure the engineer is okay with it. And we're not going to skimp on it for sure, because it's a super important piece that needs to make sure it's going to withstand the winds and the logs and the ice and everything down there. So we're definitely cognizant of that. Scott as well?
Yeah, and Committeeman Olet mentioned the ice flows. If we have a condition where ice flows come up and come over that bulkhead, we can't design a fence or rail to withstand that kind of force. The amount of force that is applied by that kind of ice flow is monumental. So we're going to do something that will work for 99.9% of the time. If we get that kind of ice flow, we're just going to have to
Abandon ship.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
It's-
always going to be some kind of maintenance down there. It's,
right. But the, you know, I live on the Rancocas Creek, and the ice flow is not as high as my first wall. I have two walls. And so it's usually a little bit below it, and I don't think it's any higher on the Delaware. I mean, it builds up, but I've never seen it where it would go over to that wall, to the new wall.
And I think with our increased height, I'm hopeful we don't see ice or water.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Fox and I went over that. We were looking at the climate change, the sea level rise forecast, and kept on bumping up
Excuse
from his initial plans. So we're trying to get something that's workable for the next 50 to 75 years.
so, are we taking public questions?
Yeah, we'll take,
Yeah.
go ahead. Have at it.
Sorry, did I interrupt somebody?
No, go
Have
ahead.
at it.
You're good.
Oh, okay, just one.
Just for the record, just give your name and address for the record, just so we have it.
Okay. Well, Mary Ellen. Well, at what point are you now in the construction of this? I know you started, are you now building the seawall, or are you just getting ready to?
So it's sort of a two-phase project. One is under construction now is the actual seawall
Okay,
itself, and that will be happening over the next basically 3 months, and probably finishing September and October.
okay.
And there's some sidewalk associated with that.
All right, now, you say September, October, now, is that the finish of the entire project?
So the seawall and the sidewalk will be finished this September, maybe into October.
Okay,
The second phase of the project will be all of these park improvements, the lighting, the pavilion, the benches, the receptacle. As Committeewoman Sue mentioned, we're looking to go out to bid in probably December for that. Have that contract awarded early next year, so we can do a very early spring construction and wrap up.
in the spring,
Year
okay,
from now, yeah, May, June next year.
all right. Thank you, that answers my question.
So we're going to pull the fence out of the park aspect of it and include that in the seawall now, since we have to do that now. But does anybody else have any other questions?
Well, if the fence gets delayed or whatever, I mean, you could always put a temporary construction fence barrier to keep people off that for the next, until everything else follows on in the spring. So it's not,
We've seen how well that's worked in the last week with these
It has to be-
storms.
It has to be in the concrete.
well, get something
Yeah.
that's a real fence.
The fence should not be put off. It should be done as Harry's doing the construction, because it's going to be right
I'm
into
just,
the concrete.
I'm just saying, if you get delayed
Yeah.
and get hung up on materials or a contractor or any aspect of that.
Right.
I think if that's a concern, to close that section of the park, because it's still in, it's going to be mud and dirt out there anyhow.
And it is a custom rail that we have to have done. You're talking 6 to 10 weeks probably, too.
So, yeah, and Kate, as you know, the bidding process, so I was actually emailing and sketching yesterday at the office to try to get this thing as quickly as possible. Once we get quotes on a couple different styles and we make that final determination, Harry's gonna have to put this out to bid. So we're gonna have resolutions in your normal public bidding process, and then once the contractor is on board for that, submittals of construction. So that does take a little bit
Good.
Sounds good.
Good. Nice work.
Yeah, nice work. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah. Does anyone else on committee have any questions for Scott?
It would be nice if we could get a copy of that at that size, to put it on a piece of big plywood and put it down there outside the construction zone, so people know what we're doing and what we're spending all this money on, and what the result's gonna be.
So what I can do is, I can share this with Richard or someone. You can actually, FedEx and some of the sign makers, they make a corrugated plastic, almost like you can see at a golf alley.
Oh, now you know what?
We're not making the railing out of that.
But a couple 4x4s and a piece of plywood we can attach that onto it, and it'll last for.
Yeah, nice, municipal community projects usually have some
Yeah.
kind of signboard that says, hey, this is,
Sometimes right across the top, we'll do a coming soon, and
Yeah.
then folks kind of see that, it's kind of fun, so we can share that with Richard. That way, you can get first generation of this on the website too, if you choose, and get it moving on that.
Great, yeah.
Good.
As long as it
Great
doesn't have one of those,
project.
your tax dollars at work like you see on I-95 for the last 15 years. But this is, no, that's a good idea, Mike. Does anyone from the audience have any further comments or questions for Mr. Taylor on this particular item? If so, Joanne, sure, just go up to the mic.
Joanne, 316 Oakland Avenue. For the fencing, is that similar to what's at the Burlington City Promenade, height-wise?
No.
I think it's less
Oh,
than
no.
that.
Lower?
Mhm.
Lower? And why is it lower?
Code requires 42 inches.
Okay.
I would, and it's been years since I've been up there,
Yeah.
I believe that is probably 42 inches.
Okay.
But the actual fence is 42
All
inches.
fence at
Right.
grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
Between the
it's-
wall and our fence is 42 total.
Okay.
Yeah, because their wall is is ground level,
Okay.
and then their fence is up from that, at least the last time I was there.
Yeah, I'm just looking here at a photo of that on
I
Google
was just
Street
thinking
View.
about, walking there and where it comes to you, that's all.
Yeah.
So that's going to be lower?
It's about
It'll be 42 inches total, so the wall will
It'll be
be
the same.
24
Yeah,
inches,
same.
and then the fence, yeah, but the actual fence will only be,
Thank you so
yes.
much.
Yeah,
Give or take, 42,
Right.
48.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Joanne. All right. Mr. Fritz.
Yes, Peter Fritz, 303 Union Avenue, and I'm representing the Delanco History Board. I think we were a little surprised that we didn't see any of this plan before last Saturday. And so we had some questions, and there are some things that we've been doing that aren't connecting with what's happening here so far. And so I did have a couple of questions. One of them is, I understand that there was a survey that was done, a historical survey of the property. Was that done?
yes,
Okay. Was it done to the same extent as the one that was done on the Zerber property when they did phase 2?
yes,
Okay. Who has that survey?
we do.
You do?
Township does.
Okay. Specifically, is there a way of getting a copy of that, or?
It is, just fill out the
Okay.
Oprah form and you can get
I don't
anything.
have it here, the engineer would have that.
The engineer has it,
Wait.
yeah.
The engineer has a copy.
Yep.
And part of that was a historical survey, not
Yep.
just...
It was an archaeological survey. There were several test pits that were dug, I think 24 test pits. That was one part of it. As we found out later from the State Historic Preservation Office, they wanted photo documentation of the site as it currently is. We did that, and that was completed in the last month, so we've complied with the SPO's state historic requirements.
Okay. As we have been talking about a lot of times, I guess everybody knows the name James Fenimore Cooper, and we have been told that his parents, William and Elizabeth Cooper, had a home that was right here. And I'd be interested to find out if there was some testing that was
Nothing was
element
found.
that would help us to locate that. We have some documentation from some early newspaper articles and that kind of thing. And we'd be very interested in, whether it was there, and it should probably be mentioned along with other things.
Yeah, it
If we
didn't
can
turn up in
establish
the,
that, it would be a real gap for Delanco.
yeah, it didn't turn up in the historic research.
Okay. And as you folks know, we're operating under a grant for this year to do interpretive signage, and one of the interpretive signs that we have already designed was for this property. Now, ours is focused on the Parsons Wharf, which was the steamboat wharf. It wasn't a ferry boat. It was a steamboat service from Philadelphia to Trenton, and it used to stop at Parsons Wharf, which is on the end here. And so I think a lot of our focus at the time was for Parsons Wharf and the steamboat service and the steamboats that visited. So if there's going to be something recognizing Zerber Mansion and the other mansions that were here before the Zerber Mansion, and there were 4 here at one time, that I guess somebody else is going to be responsible for that, or at least we're going to coordinate that. Maybe we have 2 signs.
My hope would be, well, 2 things, if I can.
Please.
I don't know where you guys are in terms of the design. In terms of that sign and also sort of future interpretive signs, I would imagine that the town would want to get some of that research and sort of coordinate with you guys. That way I'm not doing the legwork.
Okay.
But having the ability for the signs and the design layout for all of those to match, I think would be very nice.
Yep.
So whatever sort of bottom of the sign and the logos and all, it'd be nice if those colors tie into the rest of the colors of
Sure.
the amenities we use on the site.
We produced five signs last year as phase 1 of our grant sequence. And 4 of them were on Union Avenue in front of the Old Presbyterian Church. On your way out of town, you might want to stop and take a look at them. I think they were pretty well designed. There is one of them that is at the meeting.
Camp meeting.
The
Camp
Community
meeting.
Center.
7-Eleven.
Thank you. And we tried very hard to tie all of those together. And going into phase 2, what we're trying to do is design our phase 2 to match our phase 1. So that's about it. It just would be a good idea, I think, if we were involved with this stuff, maybe a little earlier in the process, so we could identify.
Peter,
things that
we
met our
fully
questions.
intended on working with the history board to do the history signs. This is just the plan.
Okay.
So once we get down to that, we'll definitely work with you,
And
of course.
I don't see anything that's going to disrupt what you've already planned here, but just
Right.
make sure that we're all on the
Absolutely.
same
Yeah,
page.
and Peter, to that same extent of making sure on the same page, since this is a town park property and any other park properties you're planning on putting signs on, that should be communicated with recreation while you're in the planning phases
Yeah.
of what signs you're doing.
All of the placement was approved before we submitted the grant last August.
That's
So,
good.
just so you know.
Yeah, that was.
Okay.
And we can make an adaptation, certainly. We had planned to put our sign closer to where the old wharf was, adjacent to the sidewalk, right sort of at the foot of Union Avenue. And I see that the placement for your sign is central, facing out across the river.
It's to the right. There's one all the way to the right.
Yeah, so we were showing one down in this location, we were showing another one sort of at this central.
So
axis.
there would be maybe 2, we could certainly adapt to all that, that would be good. And as far as the gazebo goes, we've been discussing this gazebo for years. The gazebo that was there was not a Zerber gazebo. It was designed to match a house that's now on Third Willow. And I have loads of pictures, and it had been redone many
I
times.
think you actually shared some of those with us back in
Yeah.
2015.
Good,
I
okay.
gave them to him.
So when you're talking about doing a more modern gazebo, I assume that what you're trying to match is not the old gazebo, which if he had lived, probably Theophilus Zerber would have replaced at his own time. But it should definitely match design of German Mansion.
And what we're trying to do is strike that balance of trying to do a full custom structure in a 16 by 16 pavilion can be monumentally expensive. So what we're trying to do is do sort of a structure that has some additional detailing at the bottom of the wheel, that has a cupola, that has a little bit more vertical than just sort of this flat roof structure. So we're trying to draw a little bit on that in as sort of financially responsible way as possible.
Sure.
And from a maintenance standpoint, but to your point, being able to tell that story with those photographs of several of the structures, including the old pavilions there.
Okay, so just want to let you know that we are the advisory board of the township, so we stand ready to help with any research that needs to be done. I'd be very interested to take a look at the history survey and see what they found.
I got a copy of it, and you're actually mentioned in it.
Oh.
So you're published.
I don't think we
But her
found
history, he's
anything.
saying.
We didn't find anything, and as far as I know, we didn't find anything.
From an email, though, I have forwarded to everyone.
Yeah,
Thank you, Peter.
thank you.
Peter, one last thing on the historic signs, just to gel something to think about. We've got this long name for this park now, but a lot of stuff occurred on the river, and a lot of stuff is visible from this location on the river. You got the estates on the Pennsylvania side that have a long history, the Biddle Estate at Andalusia and so forth. Actually upriver and visible from the park is Dunk's Ferry, and that's where Cadwallader's brigade crossed with General Washington to attack Trenton, but they didn't make it across due to the ice that Mr. Ouellette has arranged for, and so they went back to the tavern and didn't quite help out General George. So anyway, there are things like that are out in front that people are always asking, well, what's that building, what's that house, and what's that? So just something
We're
to
working on that
consider.
as part of our heritage project, which is to examine the older buildings in town to determine what their actual historical
Yeah.
value is. So we're working along. It's a grind, but we're getting it done.
Very
Okay.
good.
Thanks,
Any other
Peter.
questions for me?
Nope,
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Mike, with your interpretation of history, you might want to apply for a teaching job at Delanco. I think the kids would love that interpretation.
I'm the Cliff Clavin. Nope. Cliff Clavin, the purveyor of useless knowledge, so.
Very good. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Taylor?
So back to Carolyn's, do we need to do a motion or anything?
Yeah, we're
as
going
far
to
as-
do a motion, Matt's going to ask for it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And
Could you please ask
What a
for motion?
surprise.
Thank you.
yeah, we're going to do a motion to approve it.
I'd like
and-
a motion to approve the plan as presented verbally and pictorially by Mr. Taylor this evening.
So moved.
Second.
I heard a whisper by Fern first
Good.
and the second.
Go ahead.
But
Kate,
we have-
Rock, paper, scissors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Kate's family grew up
There you
right
go.
down
Oh, okay,
there.
motion by Carolyn,
She
second
was
by
next door
Kate.
neighbor.
Do we need a roll call on that, or?
Just all in favor?
All in
Yes,
favor?
all in
Aye.
favor. Aye.
All right.
And what Richard said, we need a motion to
Well, not a
approve.
motion, we need a request.
A request.
professional services proposal,
Okay,
so we know the dollars that'll cost to make that reality, and then they will then approve that.
Consider that your request, Scott, please.
right,
He's going to keep working on the fence aspect, though.
Yeah.
It's time sensitive.
right.
He keeps working on it, but before he finishes and sends the bill, make sure that we have.
Yeah, could you
an
just let
agreement
us
we've
know
agreed.
before you whack us
You know
over the
that.
head?
He knows
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Good, all right.
All right.
Thank you.
You are dismissed, sir. Go back and start working on it now. No overtime.
We lost power in Medford last night from the storms, so it's been a long day.
So did we, Scott. So did we.
Finally just got power about half an hour.
Oh, wow, that long. All right.
Wow.
You know how PSCNG is.
Yeah, right?
Not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Scott, stop
Great
by
job.
7-Eleven or Dunkin' Donuts, get a cup of coffee, and take a look at that sign on the way out.
I absolutely will. It's a good excuse to stop.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we will open the meeting to the public for comments or questions for anything else, or that still. This is be session number 1. If you have any comments or questions, please approach the podium and give your name and address for the record, and there will be another session later on this evening. Good night, Scott. Seeing none, we'll close this portion to the public, and there'll be one a little later on. And we'll start with comments and reports. Comments from our township administrator, Mr. Schwab.
Thank you. Doing it early so I can stay awake for this. First thing to note, you all have that we were talking about our retirement of our chief finance officer, Bob Hudnell. He's finishing up this week. He's a hard man to replace, particularly what he can get done for the dollars and the hours that are involved. We're making changes. We aren't ready yet to make a regular change, so I recommended that you appoint me to be the temporary CFO, which you can do for up to a year per statute. Janice put that in there. And when we have someone who is a certified municipal finance officer, I used to be, but haven't been since I retired, but that we can keep things going until we have the appropriate person, and at that point in time, that person will replace me in that formal role. In the meantime, all those finance operations are being handled in part by our new finance clerk and the office, and then I can fill in as needed. So that's in your consent agenda. Also, I want to report that one of the last jobs that Bob did was to receive bids for bond anticipation note and award that. That's the purview of the chief finance officer. Each year we take the amount that's outstanding in notes. We pay off as much as we can afford in our budget, generally $400,000 or $500,000. But in order to do projects such as you talk about here, it needs new borrowing. We did a bond ordinance tonight for the projects that were in this year's budget, most of them. There's still a couple out there. And so that we have to then add those, and then we consolidate those notes. We pay off the old ones, reduce it by the amount you budgeted, and then have to go out to bids for new one-year bond anticipation notes. The amount this year was $2,146,905. We received only one bid. Bids are crazy. They go up and down. We've been as little as under 1%, and now it's between 4 and 5% for the 1 year. If you went on permanent financing, which would be for 10 or 15-year notes, you'd be paying these numbers. So it's not a good time. It's like with mortgages. You don't want to do a 20-year mortgage at these rates, so you just do the 1 year. And the best price we got was a net price of 4.58%. The way it interestingly works, it was 4.75%, but they pay a premium that comes in the 24 budget. So in effect, we're paying 4.75% in our 25 budget when these notes become due. It's about $5,600 more than what we had budgeted. We assumed it would be 4%, but it ends up being 4.75. So it's a few $1,000s more, and it's going to be over $100,000 in interest in our 25 budget for the $2,146,000 outstanding. That's all the debt we actually have. We have no long-term debt. So that we used to have millions in that, but that's gone. So you're very low in terms of overall debt, particularly with the assessed value that we have in the community. We can go to 3%, and we're at less than 0.5% for the municipality. So that is something that is awarded, and the mayor and the clerk sign the documents that the finance officer puts together, working with our bond counsel. The other thing to note is that you pointed to Sean O'Sullivan as the deputy assessor at your last meeting to work with Sean Gaskell, who was the assessor, and he's starting. You will see him in the office in this week. He's getting started doing that. So while Sean Gaskell's not here, O'Sullivan's here, and vice versa. So you get to see both of them at various times during the day and the evenings when they're here. The other thing that I have is that the Public Works Subcommittee had first of what will be monthly follow-ups with the engineer on all these various projects. We had a meeting so that we don't have to wait a full month to have things done. And one of the things that the engineer was able to do that we've talked about is get pricing for repair and or replacement of the pipe that crosses 719 Delaware Avenue, that they have an easement. That pipe is all blocked up. It's not able to function. There are two options. One is to replace 3 large sections, and the other is to replace the entire length between the back of the curb line and the private seawall. There's a sleeve through that seawall, so that stays. So it's 75 feet versus 24 feet of replacement. Interestingly, we got quotes, and the lowest quote is Thor, who has done a lot of work for us, and it was $9,600 for the repair and $14,500 for the replacement. His price for replacement is really low. Pioneer Pipe, which also does a lot of work for us, was $11,300 for the repair and almost $40,000 for the replacement. So that has to do with how they operate, but we're very comfortable, and Harry's very comfortable with Thor. And it makes, with that kind of pricing, it makes sense to replace the existing concrete pipe, and it's being replaced. It's 15-inch pipe with ADS solid pipe, and it'd be sodded over the top. We, of course, work with the property owner, but there's an easement for that. So in order to move that along, also in your bond ordinance that you approved tonight, you may notice that for the storm sewer work, it didn't just say Hickory, as we had talked about before, but it also said Delaware, which is this project. We had no idea at the time we'd be able to get away with such a low number. I thought it'd be more in the $40,000 range. But the bottom line is that funding is now available. We can get the project done. When we're ready to do Hickory, if in fact the estimate or the costs are higher than what's left in that, then you'll have to do a supplement or do a smaller project. But now is the time to get this thing done, because the impact of that plug pipe has been very negative, and we know how to solve it very quickly and very inexpensively. So I'd ask for a motion to authorize the replacement of that pipe for $14,550 per Thor's proposal.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Mike, second by Kate.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. There's a number of other things that we talked about that the engineer is working on to try to move things along. We're going to be working with the QPA to get our numbers and the process for the Babe Ruth Field for the basketball court area, for the pathways both there and at Field of Dreams. You have the award for the installation of field lighting at Field of Dreams that Harry has sent you a lot of information on. And the other thing, we've been negotiating the road program costs. I have been negotiating with Harry for ERA's cost. I believe that the numbers that he originally gave us was more than what we had planned, and therefore we're making him relook at those numbers. We thought we'd have that ready for tonight, but that didn't work. More important things came up. So at your meeting on the 15th, you should have that ready, so I'll be able to send that out, and it should be within our budget. The other thing that he'll do is he promised today to also give us a proposal to do the CDBG curb cut project, the next group, the $75,000 next group that Janice got for us, not just fixing last year's that has to be completed so we can get our money back, but so we can move quickly on the project. CDBG is not a lot of fun. They set an end deadline, but they wait till the last minute to let you do it. So if we're not ready to go, then we have a chance of not getting the job done in time. So we're trying to move that kind of stuff along,
He said he's still working with the contractor to fix those ramps too.
right?
Do we have a deadline on that?
Yep, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to pay the contractor in full. That has to be done by September 1st. And you can't do that if they haven't finished the work. So, you know, it's a conundrum. The federal government through HUD sets these rules that the county has to follow, and they're the ones that, you know, the money comes through. But if the contractor hasn't finished the work, you don't want to pay them. So we may have to try to get an extension if there's a problem, but the hope is that he's meeting with them this week, and they'll try to get those things done that need to get done, so that project can get done, we can get our money reimbursed.
Can we escrow it or something?
They were
Would that,
I don't know, you know, when you're dealing with HUD,
yeah.
logic doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't work. So
The
we'll,
ramps were
Like
terrible.
any other
Yeah.
level of government.
I mean, it's just a question of if you got a contractor is not getting the job done, you don't want to pay him, right?
No,
But if you don't pay him, the county, by such and such a date, the county says, when you do pay him, you won't get reimbursed, even though we promised to reimburse you. So we're between a you-know and a hard place. So we have to figure that out. And he's also going to try to close out, we still have to close out the contract with the street end
yeah,
seawall people
the cats.
and get that done, right? So we can close that out, and we now have a contractor who can we can then assign that work to our current contractor who's working at the waterfront park, but pay it out of that. So we're going to try to close that out very shortly and use whatever funds are available for example, the boat ramp, which I'm sure Carol will talk about at another point. But so we're working on a lot of things, trying to make our money go as far as it can and get things done because we got good pricing. Also, I should probably mention speaking of good pricing, you'll be awarding the Field of Dreams lighting, and the pricing there was very good for that. That allows for change order to do some additional electrical work that we thought was going to have to be done separately and with other funds, so we can get ahead of that project. So Harry's analyzing that, he'll make a recommendation, and we'll be talking about that on the 15th. Okay?
All right.
Thanks.
So that's what I'm up to, and I'm still on vacation for the next couple weeks, but trying to keep in touch with everybody best I can. Okay?
Very good. Anyone have
Thank
any
you, Richard.
questions for Richard?
No, I just want to thank Richard for the good work and coordinating the transition with the tax assessor. I know in these days, it's hard to get two tax assessors with the same first name, so
Yeah,
it makes it easier for the public when they call in. They said, oh, I talked to Sean, you know.
Yeah. I thought that was a negative, but I'm glad you turned it into positive. Thank you, Mike.
Always on the bright side.
Richard, go home, get some sleep.
Yeah, well, finish the meeting and then go home and get some sleep.
Richard was stuck on the airport tarmac till, what, 2 a.m. last night?
Something like that.
And half an hour of sleep, and here he is. All right, thank you, Richard. All right, department heads, start with Lieutenant Warren.
Hello, everyone. Couple good things. We had a coffee with a cop last weekend at Pie Out with our civilian clerk, Eric Rogers, a retired sergeant from Morristown, and officers responding out there. And they said it was a good turnout. People came out and asked questions. They got to meet some of the younger guys. So it was a success. So we're looking at doing that again in the future, hopefully before the end of the year. We had a recruit graduate from the academy last Thursday, Ryan Kearns. So he's going to start his field training on Wednesday morning. Looking forward to him. I think he's going to do well. Patrolman Chris Orff, who graduated in May, is actually in the second phase of FTO. He's doing very well. So he'll be finishing up, which is right now towards the end of July. He'll be on the road, so he's looking really good. We were able to give a conditional offer to another gentleman named Tandrew Gumas. He's in his process now. He has to get a physical still, but everything else is complete. So we're just waiting to hear back from the state and from our psychologist. But he did very well at the PTC mandated physical training test for Tulsa County Police Academy. He did very well. So with him passing the requirements, don't see him having a problem with the academy. So that'll start August 5th.
Basil, use the mic. Go talk more into the mic so she gets it on
I
everything.
don't want to yell too much.
Yeah, it works.
But that starts August 5th, and that'll go until December 12th down in Gloucester County. As far as numbers for this past month, as of to date, we had 125 motor vehicle stops with 66 motor vehicle summonses issued, 10 police cases, and we had 769 calls to service, which gives us a total for 5,216 for the year. Guys been busy.
Understatement.
They've been
Yeah.
busy, but doing well, so.
Glad we're going to be finally staffed up with all these
yeah, it's good.
recruits in the academy, just out of the academy.
So, keep them busy.
Very good for the department.
Got a bunch of babies.
Do you want to mention Adam's directive on Hook Island
Yeah, I was wondering what happened at the last.
or not?
It's not really Adam's directive.
Yeah, okay. I have a
So,
question.
here's the thing. We obviously know that as far as enforcement for trespassing, We cannot. People aren't partying on the island. They're utilizing the island to get to the water. So they're on the beach, and then they're meeting people who are already out on boats, who are township residents, as well as people coming over from Philadelphia. So they're utilizing just to get the access to the shore area. And with that, again, we can't stop them from doing it. And from what John, I haven't been back there in a while, but from what John said, they're doing the best they can with trying to clean up out there, but for the trails. But there's really no space out there to really even engage in anything. It's just fallen debris, trees. But again, they're using that trail just to get access to the beachfront, and they're in that tidal water. So that's where they're hanging out at. So we understood there were people come out, I guess it was yesterday or Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
Yeah, but obviously we've been getting calls for that for years now. Normally, in the past, when we were told that it was proper property, obviously, yeah, we enforce it. Gave summons when we could, or we just gave them warnings. Because obviously a lot of residents walk their dogs back there. Or even go back and fish as well. But we have a lot of people from out of town that come and park on Vine and access the water as well. Because again, they're meeting people who already have boats out there. So people literally take their boat as Dr. Hawk Island, go around the point, and then they'll anchor there and then utilize the beach area in their boat to hang out on a Saturday. So as long as they're doing that, we're fine. But the issue too, as far as John Fenimore, obviously, is the trash.
The trash is, I mean, I get photos from Paul Newman all the time of the trash, and there was one that was like this huge with just Corona bottles. So Corona must be a favorite. And then someone was cutting down trees, the birch trees back there. So there are people on the island too that are doing this. I don't think somebody's taking their trash. Some of them from the boats are taking it up there, but there are people back there that are trashing it.
No, they're doing it, but no, I agree with you. Like they're actually on the beach, and they'll have a good old time and leave their trash there, absolutely.
Yeah, but they're taking it up on the island and disposing of it.
Right, instead of leaving it there, or
Right.
remember
Yeah.
when the water
They're
washes
taking it
up.
up.
Yeah, and they'll
Yeah.
drop it there, and then
Right.
continue to walk out.
Yeah.
So that's where for a while, John was leaving bags back there for them to put their
Right.
stuff in
Well,
bags. Yeah.
I don't know, I have to talk to the committee, because there was supposed to be something done on June 10th, and I don't know.
Figure that out. I'll
Okay,
figure it out.
I don't know I wasn't at that meeting, so I don't know what was discussed. But
We
I
were just
will
told, I
find
mean,
out.
from Chief's perspective, again, as far as the enforcement, we can enforce the law anywhere we want, obviously,
Right.
if we see something that's wrong. But as far as stopping the access to the island, we cannot. They're
Not
allowed to
yet.
access it.
Not yet. Hopefully
I'm just
that'll
telling you what I
change.
was told from Chief.
Right.
So his
And
email
from-
said he was going to have some of the bike officers go
No,
back there,
we're-
but
I talked with,
I
not
don't
yet.
know if that's
No.
possible with the sand.
No, yeah, 'cause that's why
Yeah.
he didn't think about that part. And again, like I said, it's not even
Yeah.
really that accessible. You can get to one point, there's a fallen tree, now he's got to turn around and walk all the way back.
Yeah.
Our thing would be, what we normally would do, we would just walk out there, we'd drive in a little bit and walk it down to make sure, but even the other issue is, working in tandem with the state police, because the state police allows more. Once they're out in the water, as long as they're not operating a boat, they'll allow people to drink. They're checking more credentials for the operation of the vehicles, the other registration, things of that nature. But again, as far as what we were told, I guess, from the attorney, we can enforce the law, yes. But as far as restricting access, no,
Not yet.
yeah. Well, right now, committee woman, we cannot. If you're saying in 2 months we will.
That's what I said, not yet.
Yeah, but right now, as of today, for everyone here, if you access Hawk Island, you can access Hawk Island.
Right,
Until something else happens.
right,
Do
You will
legal
let me know.
things, don't do illegal things back there.
right. I have a question for you, too. As someone had mentioned to me that there were cars parking on the sidewalk on Pennsylvania and Burlington Avenue. And I said, well, why don't you report it? On the sidewalk. The cars are jetting out. They're actually on the sidewalk, so people have to walk around them in the street. And I said, well, contact the police. And they said, well, the police were there, right there, and saw it, and nothing was done. So would you check on that?
Where was that at?
Pennsylvania Avenue and Burlington, the corners, I guess.
Pennsylvania Avenue doesn't run
Intersect.
Burlington.
They both run the same way.
Pennsylvania Avenue and Burlington run parallel. Pennsylvania
Yeah, it
runs
must be
straight.
Perkins Lane and Burlington Avenue then.
Oh, you're talking about Delanco Auto.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
Perkins,
on
it
that.
must be Perkins Lane, and, yeah, I must have misunderstood what they said. It must be Perkins Lane. So if they have a vehicle that's parked on the sidewalk, the residents have to walk around, and would you do something about that? Because that is illegal.
Yeah, of course it would.
Pardon?
I said, of course.
Yeah, because they said the police were right there and they weren't doing anything.
Ed sent a memo today.
All right.
Oh, okay.
I have
All
no
right
idea what
then.
you're talking about.
I'm just reporting what was told to me, so I'm asking for some assistance.
Well, but see, you're being vague. So you're saying the auto shop there had a vehicle that they were doing work on, was on their apron to their property?
I'm saying that the vehicle was blocking the sidewalk and the
Yeah.
resident had to walk in the street in order to get across Burlington Avenue.
And then the police were there.
Yeah, the police were there doing something else, but didn't mention that to them. But I would ask that the police take a look at it and keep an eye on it,
Okay.
because it's dangerous.
Anything else?
Good?
Good to go?
Thank
All
you,
right.
Lieutenant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and let's see, Mr. Fenimore is out this evening. Mrs. Lohr.
Yes, everyone was given a copy of a quote that we received for the installation of acoustical panels for this room. We now have a QPA, so we can, and with a QPA, the state bid threshold is $44,000, so we can use quotes for this. This particular company is providing approximately 1,800 square feet of acoustical panels from the ceiling, the various walls, for a total of, it actually would be $38,618, because the standard color included in the $37,000 is a black panel or a white panel. And I figure you would probably want something in the tans, creams, light browns. But it is Township Committee's decision as far as color. They don't have swatches because the rep said that they can do any color that we want. And if you want to give them, say, we want, bear paint color, sage green tropical forest or whatever, number 101, they can do that. So that's why they don't have swatches, because it's whatever color you want. So if you want to go with a white acoustical panel or a black acoustical panel, it's $37,618, but I figured you'd probably want something more conducive to the cream color or a, in the brown tan area. So I will be talking, which is one of the things with the QPA tomorrow. She's coming in, just going over the different quotes that I've received and making sure that everything is proper under the state public bidding laws, that we could award this quote to actually get the work started. There'll be a 6-week lead to order the panels in the color that you want and be ready to start. And then approximately 1 week at least for the actual installation in this room.
They've done the sound measurements or acoustical measurements or whatnot to make sure that what they're providing
Yes,
is...
this would actually, most of the vendors that came out said we're at about a 3.5 to 3.8 reverberation. And the goal is to bring it down to at least 1.25 reverberation.
I'm not sure what
I'm
the
now a
science behind that
professional
means,
sound
but-
engineer, by the way. So, and they've all said that. Now, I've had all different, from everywhere as low as, 400 square feet of panels, that's all you need, to one vendor walked in and said, doesn't matter how many acoustical panels you have put in here, you've got to lower those speakers. That's not part of the scope of this. I figure we can do the acoustical panels and we can always lower the speakers later or reposition them if needed. There was only one vendor that said that. But some we're only putting them,
On the walls.
on the walls, where, you know, saying that because the sound has to be controlled where people sit, to, no, you need panels coming down
above.
from the ceiling, and, you know, the cloud panels, and this and that. So, this particular quote, I think it's within the new bid threshold, and it gives us approximately 1,800 square feet of acoustical panels. And so I would ask the Township Committee, if you're not, you know, to either just authorize the work, condition upon approval of the QPA review. If you need more time to think about the color that you would like, you know, it's up to you. But our next meeting is July 15th. You know, you can either approve it tonight, with the condition of the QPA review and approval, or we can hold it off until the July 15th meeting. But
I think that.
we are
since-
ready to move now that we have a
Yeah.
QPA on board.
Since our walls are cream and our dais is brown, that we do something on a lighter brown color, that's something that's not gonna be too loud, that kind of blends in with the walls, but not too light to where it's gonna show dust and dirt.
I have no comment on the color whatsoever, as I have,
So you agree with me?
no,
Is that what you're saying?
yeah, what she said.
Okay.
I think it
have,
should be closer to cream.
Well, it's one
A little
color.
bit darker. I think it should be a little
$1,000
bit
is
darker
one
than the
color.
color of our
Yep.
walls, but not brown. I
Like a
would
sand color
like
almost?
try to blend it in as much as they could. And I would make a motion that we approve this, Janice,
Yes, please.
upon the QPA approving it. I will make the motion.
I'll second.
Yeah, because the other quote requests, they were either non-responsive or did not meet the specification.
Yeah, I know you've been working on this for like a year now.
Yeah,
so
it's
let's
more
just-
than
photo
that.
here is
More
March
than that, I think it was
2020.
before.
Yeah, it was
So,
revised. So, you know, again, color-wise, just like a tan creamy color,
Yeah, try to match the wall, but a little bit darker.
a little bit
But you got
darker.
ceiling panels on this, and you don't want a chocolate bar on the ceiling. I
No,
think if you want
no, you want
have a white-
something
a white
very
panel
similar.
up there.
Yeah, you want a color very similar to what we have,
Yep.
as close as
Okay,
they.
well, I can see if the white, I can see if they can just do the white up for the ceiling, so that it's, you know, doesn't, no white.
You don't want white on the ceiling, you can't clean it.
Yeah, you want like the color, you want to kind of match it.
Ceiling wants to be hanging.
Yeah.
Can't leave it.
Yeah, they're gonna hang. Match it the best you can, Janice, and if you,
I said
Anyway,
that
we have a
no,
motion.
color is Township
Yeah.
Committee's
there's
decision.
a
You know
motion,
the Phillies jerseys, they're Sunday cream colored jerseys,
Yeah.
something like that.
something that,
All right,
yeah,
well, we
they're
have a-
cream color, yeah.
We have a motion on the floor, motion was
Manila.
by Kate, and second
Second
was
by Carolyn.
by Carolyn. Any questions on the motion?
No.
All right, we roll call or all in favor?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have at it.
All right, ayes have it. What else you got, Jan?
Kind of like
Unless Bev has anything as far as upcoming events or anything, we're kind of getting into summer mode where, you know, we're not, you know, really having a lot of events, except the wonderful summer concerts that Rec has at the marina. I don't think we have anything really, you know, we do have a new Facebook page. We will mention that, where we not only, we posting information via our website, delancotownship.com, and email blasts if you've signed up for the email, but we also have an official Facebook page for Delanco Township news and events. It is it's not monitored, it's not a chat Facebook page, it's just for informational purposes. So thank you, Ms. Seuss, for getting that going and starting and doing all the legwork to get that going and
And
up
if
and
you search
running.
for it, it's Delanco Township, New Jersey spelled out.
Yeah. It's not the Residents of Delanco page. I know there are several private pages. This is new governmental page that is for informational purposes. So that's another way of getting information out to residents.
Good.
So,
Thank you, Jan.
so that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And we will go to Township Committee reports. I'll start on my far left with Ms. Fitzpatrick.
No, thank you. Before I give my report, I do have a question that I'd like to ask, and that's regarding the shade tree grant. I believe the first year, the contractor was supposed to be watering the trees, and now we're in that second year, and I know Bill Matalevitz has been out there watering them himself, and I don't think his health should allow him to do, or allows him to do that, but he is, and I wonder what we can do, what the township committee can do through Public Works or the fire department or something to help watering some of these plants, because these trees are gonna die this summer, and then I don't know how DEP is gonna handle if we're responsible for watering this second year. I'm not sure I understand that, but somehow we need to do something about it.
I know that they were sending in water, I actually emailed them last week and told them there was another 14 trees that died out there. And the contractor said he was sending a water truck out there today. And I actually talked to Scott about this, and he said it's actually more cost-effective for the contractor to let the trees die and just plant new ones than to keep sending watering trucks up here.
Oh.
So Bill had volunteered to water them this weekend, which was awful. It was so hot out there to see him out there with a bucket and just watering. So the fire department is not willing to water. We asked them on Saturday or Friday. They just don't have the time or the resources to do that. Did you want to add something, Phil?
I recommended to Bill that he reach out to the township to see if Public Works would reach out to the county and have the county bring out their hose. Remember when we first did the addition of the vent lawn? The county brought out one of their wheel hoses that would go around the property and spray the water. We had the 2-inch hose hook up at the softball field to allow for that to work, the whole system. Not only would it benefit the trees, but also probably bring back the vent.
The vent. Yeah, and another suggestion was that those bags be put on all the trees, the water bags, they weren't put on all the trees, and I don't know who would do that, but I mean, if it's cheaper, if the contractor wants to let them all die, I just don't think Bill Matalevitz should be out there watering these trees, I'm sorry. That's not his job, and I think we need to take some responsibility here, somehow. Either if we're going to let them die and the contractor's going to replace them next year, fine, as long as we're within what we can do under that grant, because if DEP does not approve that grant, the township is out that money. And that's $220,000 that I don't want to see come out of our pocket.
200? I thought it was 120.
No, the whole grant was 220.
I don't want to see a dollar come out of our pocket.
Yeah,
It's $100
I
grand or
mean-
200 grand. But
Yeah, I thought it was 220.
You know,
Yeah.
obviously, we can't stop Bill from doing that if he wants to do it, but, you know, the Shade Tree Commission.
A shade tree
Commission-
hasn't even gotten involved with him, and I don't know
Right, well,
why he hasn't reached out to them, but,
Well, Shade Tree submitted this grant, and they should be responsible for making sure it
Bill Matalevitz submitted this grant.
wasn't on behalf of Shade Tree.
No, he did
It
it.
wasn't on behalf of the township, I know that.
No, he did it, and I don't think Shade Tree was actually involved initially at all. I just want to make sure that we are aware of what he's doing, that he shouldn't be doing it, and that if that's what the contractor said, somebody needs to, maybe I'll reach out to Bill and say, this is what we were told, I don't want you, the township doesn't want you out there watering them, or whatever.
The contractor, his name's Fred, he was out here a couple weeks ago and he removed all the dead, and we had come up with a plan, and he's working with Steve Lennon to relocate some of the trees, change to different species, and he's gonna plant in fall. Well, he's gonna have about 20 to 25 more trees to add to that list now, because there's a bunch dead out there.
Right.
But yeah, honestly, it's more cost effective to let them die than keep paying
Okay.
for labor and.
Then Bill
trying
needs
come
to
up
know
with-
that. Bill needs to know that the contractor and Steve Lennon made this decision, because he doesn't apparently, because someone,
He was on the email with the rest of them, so he took it upon himself, and nobody said, don't do it, but, you
Yeah.
know, if somebody wants to reach out and say,
I will.
yeah.
I'll reach out to him. Okay, all right, just wanted to
Very
get
good.
that. All right, so let's see. DISA Del Riv, let's see, baseball, t-ball, and softball are winding down. Playoffs will begin shortly. I don't know if they've done that since this last meeting I attended. This was in May.
Yeah, their season's done.
They reported that our fields were in good shape. Fall soccer sign-ups are ongoing. Fall travel, softball tryouts, and sign-ups opened on June 1st. Riverside Township is contributing $5,000 to Del Riv as well as one half of our insurance costs, which will be paid directly to the township. Basketball was discussed and letters requesting the gym will be sent out. A letter will also be submitted to Delanco Township Board of Ed and Dr. Fitz regarding the Walnut Street Gym as it has been used for practices for the program. They're always in need of someone to work the concessions. Please check out the website and sign up if you're available. And if you want to know what is happening, be sure to check out their weekly newsletter. They really do keep us up to date on what's going on. Their next meeting is tomorrow night at 7:30 here. The Memorial Day Parade, the parade was a bit hot for some marchers and caused several delays. The route may be changed next year. I don't know if that was decided at REC since I did miss that meeting. The service at Gateway Park is always solemn but enjoyed by all who attend, and it's nice to have the Scouts participate, and a thank you to all the organizations in town who show their respect by placing wreaths and our flowers at the monuments. Seniors, I did visit with the seniors at Living Springs and provided them with some upcoming events for them and that were offered through the Sheriff's Office and also RCBC. I also provided them with voting applications as well as vote by mail. We had a pizza party, and it's always nice visiting with them. The Delanco seniors had their spring luncheon at Fratelli's on June 11th with 40 members enjoying a wonderful luncheon. They will not be meeting again until September 10th, and they will be moving their meeting place to the firehouse beginning in the fall. I was unable to attend Fratelli's since I was on a cruise to Alaska with my daughter. Great time. History Board, I worked with Peter Fritz on Sunday, June 2nd, in setting up the Waterman's display out in the lobby. As you will note, many of the items on display are my possessions. They were my grandfather's, Tommy Fitzpatrick, who's an avid hunter and a decoy carver. He lived in a houseboat on the Delaware River that he built that was dry docked on Stockton's property. I have several books of interest that he's in and that I had hoped to be here on the 15th, but when I returned from my trip, I was sick, so I didn't make it. But it is my hope that some of you take a look at the display because I'm very proud of the work that my grandfather did. He hand-carved everything from the wood that drifted along the water, and he made his own tools, and he's very well known, and some of his decoys are quite expensive today. The FOD maintenance meeting, several members of REC met with the professionals and contractors to make sure the new pump station was working properly. It appears our new contractor, Jim McHugh, is following up on the issues and concerns, and it's our hope that all the problems are worked out so our fields are usable and looking good for soccer. Sewage Authority, they met on June the 11th, unable to attend, but the chairman did send me an update. Trunk line project, the pipelining has been completed, and ERI is working with the contractor to complete the final paperwork. This should be done by Sewer's next meeting, which will be July. 989 Coopertown Road, it appears they're showing some activity, and the chairman requested ERI to make some arrangements to check out the drain situation. Building drains should not empty into our sanitary sewer system, so I'm sure they're going to be looking into that. The work at the pump station is progressing. The emergency backup pump and the submersible pumps have been delivered. We're waiting for the contractor to provide an updated work schedule. Stylex has no update, and the operator's report is on file. And the Waterfront Historic Park, which You've just seen this wonderful presentation tonight. Several members of REC, Carolyn Al, Stephen Lohr, Matt has been working on it, myself when available, and Scott. We did meet via Zoom to go over the latest details so this presentation could be completed. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, go to my far right, Mr. Templeton.
Good evening. I'll try to make this quick so Mr. Schwab can get out of here and get some sleep tonight. Let's see, just to touch on what Ms. Fitzpatrick had mentioned, the Memorial Day Parade. Maybe we should consider having that on a different day, that we're not backed into a Sunday afternoon with hot days and so forth. So if we had a parade on a weekend like we just experienced, that's not going to be a good thing for the public or the marchers. So maybe we need to consider having it on the...
Could you speak up, Mike? I can't hear you.
Just suggesting a relook at what day to have the Memorial Day Parade instead of the Sunday afternoon, since our summer days seem to be getting hotter and so forth, that maybe look at Saturday morning or the Monday morning for the holiday.
We can't do it Monday because it's Riverside's parade.
Well, it's something, you know,
Sunday morning even.
Sunday
Yeah.
morning, maybe, yeah.
Sunday
well,
morning. Yeah, we could
just
do
something to
Sunday
get away
morning.
from the afternoon
We
heat,
could
just
do
a
Sunday
suggestion. Let's see, attended a webinar, a couple back on May 30th, organized by Congressman Keem's office with the Corps of Engineers. It's basically an introduction to the different funding programs that the Corps has. You're talking about a bureaucracy that would drive you nuts. The Corps of Engineers can provide that. But one of the things I suggested or asked about at the end of it was, this meeting was actually generated out of Delran due to the flooding that they had back in January. And the Corps has authorized some funding to study it over the next couple of years, the difficulties that one neighborhood along the Rancocas has. And one of the things after the various people from the Philadelphia district office talked about, I said, well, what about some kind of funding study for the various water authorities, sewage treatment plants in our communities, Beverly, that we partner with, Willingboro, the Delran, Cinnamons, and Riverton, and so forth. We're all subject. They're all, you know, waterfront facilities. They're all subject to the same hazards and risks, climate change and so forth. And what I mentioned was, you know, if Hurricane Sandy had tracked 60 or 80 miles farther south, the flooding that occurred in North Jersey and New York City would have occurred in Philadelphia and the Delaware Bay and up the river. So it's something that actually it got a fair number of good responses from various mayors and people that were on that webinar. So maybe something that'll be the start of something that we can look at hardening the infrastructure or some kind of various funding or studies to elevate some of the hardware that's at these plants or dikes or things like that. If we've got 6 sewage treatment plants and 100,000 people that can't flush the toilet for a week, that's a problem. So, but obviously a long-range effort. Let's see. Board of Ed Library Committee, I've been working with Mr. Bartlett. We've had 2 very productive meetings with a school board subcommittee on establishing or renewing the agreements with the use of the library or the shared, the jointure, to use the antiquated term, that the partnership with the school district and the township established back in 1987. So we're moving forward with that. As a general framework, we're looking at 2 agreements, one that establishes the long-term residency of the public and school library at Pearson School, and a shorter-term agreement that would accommodate the financial and equitable and fair accounting of costs and expenses both to the school and to the township to maintain this important resource for the community. So if you'd like to add something during your comments as well. The lead graduation, Law Enforcement Against Drugs, that Sergeant Deering had back last week on the 14th. Great presentation by the kids in the 5th grade. Some great essays that they wrote and a credit to Sergeant Deering. He's been doing that for several years and really does a good job, has a great rapport with the kids. But it's a pedal gymnastics here. We're talking to kids about the steering clear of drugs and addiction issues and things like that. And yet, on the other side, we've got a state by referendum and municipalities and with cannabis, and municipalities looking at the various levels of cannabis sales from retail and so forth. And it's just kind of a little bit of a head snapper that we're telling kids one thing, and yet walking out the door, someone's walking down the street pushing a baby stroller, smoking whatever. So it's something our society is not quite, just seems in conflict with each other. So let's see, got that. The monthly court session. Let's see, been going to the school board meetings and so forth. I really encourage people, whether you've got kids in school or not, attend our school board meetings. Our school district is trying to overcome a lot of difficulties, financial and academic, and it's imperative that the public, our community, be informed as to their state of affairs and what needs to be done to straighten things out. So it's, I would hope, well, more questions need to be asked, more questions need to be answered, and people just, this is important for our kids, the young people in our community, and this is one of the important things the community does, is provide a safe environment and a quality education for our young people. And that's fallen short in the last decade or so. Yesterday we had a pretty violent storm that blew through town, 6 o'clock, 6:30 yesterday. Credit to Public Works, to the police department, fire department getting out there and making things safe. I will say this, and Mayor Bartlett can certainly add in, after a storm, it's not Pirates of the Caribbean. This is not the time to take a tour around town and see what trees got blown down or what got damaged. It was just a parade of cars everywhere. I looked, and I was out helping neighbors clearing trees and so forth from the roadways and getting them off, rooftops. But people just gawking and driving around and getting in the way of emergency response or utilities or things like that. Get out, check your house, help your neighbors, but don't get in your car and start driving around and clogging up the streets. And there's wires down, there are branches that are still falling, and you don't need to add to something else that our emergency services need to respond to. So I ask, I keep going back to the Dietz and Watson fire, and was out there, and people pulled up, and it was like Disneyland. And someone pulled up and right in front of a fire hydrant and blocked it and got out and stood there and watched the fire while the fire truck drove by looking for a hydrant. So just common sense, please, and makes it safe for emergency response. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Vern, your turn.
Let's see. Get the highlights here. The History Board meeting this coming July on the 3rd Saturday will not be here at Town Hall to have their open house. The members will be out at the farm fair out in Columbus for that week, and we'll have the sneak box boat that was built by the steel company here in Delanco. They'll have that on display at the, in the history tent out there at the farm fair. It'll be the central focal point. So we have that honor to have that boat on display in the, out at the farm fair. Let's see. Mayor Bartlett and I have been working on the sign ordinance, which we'll have discussions about this evening. Our JIF insurance will be coming up for renewal, and I believe at July's Township Committee meeting, there'll be a presentation by our JIF representatives about us continuing with the JIF insurance. It's a great organization that we're a part of, saves our community probably tens of thousands of dollars in tax dollars. So look forward to their presentation, and hopefully, unless there's a better mousetrap out there, that we continue to be associated with the JIF insurance. And let's see, and the rest is it's all minor stuff, so on that note, I'll pass the baton.
All right. Thank you, Fern. Ms. Seuss.
Thank you for remembering me.
Yes, never would forget. Except that last time.
Yep.
All yours.
I attended the Joint Land Use Board. No, I didn't. I did not attend the Joint Land Use Board meeting. There was no applications that evening. I was at the Miracle for Molly event that is for a young lady in our town battling Rett syndrome. We go every year. It's a great event that fundraises for the cure of Rett syndrome. I was part of the Public Works Subcommittee meeting on June 6th with Mr. Bartlett, Mr. Schwab, and Mr. Fenimore. We meet every 6-7 weeks to just kind of touch base, see what's going on in town, discuss our concerns. John kind of tells us what his plans are, and I think it's a great thing that we do to keep in touch with our Public Works. On June 12th, that was our CFO's retirement luncheon. I was filling in for the mayor and was able to read the proclamation to Bob and thank him for his many years of service. That evening, I attended the Crossings HOA meeting and was accompanied by Mayor Bartlett, Sergeant Deering, Mr. McFadden was there. Cindy had graciously invited us to come out and speak with the residents, address some of their concerns that they had and some ongoing issues that they continue to have with their developer. We had a couple of takeaways, some questions, and I think we were able to get some answers for some of them, and things seem to be progressing, fingers crossed. The seawall pre-construction meeting, I attended, that was on the 11th. We met with the contractor, a few of us on the committee here, to meet with them to go over what the plans are for the seawall, kind of what our expectations are. There's a whole plan. It was my first actual pre-construction meeting. It was a cool process to see how that goes down. Contractor is really anxious. They seem to be working out there already, clearing the lot, and they will begin their actual pile driving the Monday after 4th of July. So if you don't see any activity down there, that's why. Let's see what else. Recreations meeting was on June 13th. Standard business. The concerts are ongoing right now till mid-September. They did approve the historic waterfront park plan and did officially rename it to Historic Waterfront Park. They also are going to have another movie night. They're going to have their own movie set up now, outdoor movie screen with a projector instead of hiring a company and going through that rigmarole. So September 14th, they're going to have another family movie night, and they actually are going to pair with the police department and host cookout with a cop. So the Delanco Police Force will be out there, so make sure you mark that on your calendar. Come out, meet with the officers, have some good food, and then stay for movie night. June 19th was our Code Enforcement Subcommittee meeting that we have every few months with our code enforcement, Aaron McFadden and the mayor as well as Richard or Janice. We go over all the outstanding violations, kind of tell us where things are, what process they're in, if they're going to court. We talk about our concerns so that the code enforcement can address that, and that's been a very productive subcommittee meeting as well, to try to keep our town looking nice and get all the violations kind of taken care of. What else do I have here? This past Friday, I met with Scott via Zoom and Ms. Fitzpatrick and Stephen Lohr to discuss the park plans more in detail, figure out exactly what specs we needed, and that was productive. So we seem to be moving right along with that. I had a meeting with Harry today, as Richard and Janice were on, as well as Matt was invited, but he was on another call, just to go over every meeting that Harry's not here. We're going to, as part of the Public Works Subcommittee meeting, meet with him, discuss the projects. He can give us an update on where things stand. We can address our concerns if we have anything. It's just a status with everything that's ongoing right now. We just want to make sure we're on our timelines and that things are progressing, because there are a lot of things happening right now in town, which is a good thing, of course. The boat ramp plans, I asked Harry today if we actually had any boat ramp plans, because Mike had mentioned that was at our rec meeting, that was the next project that we were going to move along with as part of the seawall. And he said there was some preliminary plans, but he was going to get us a cost estimate with his fees and actually start moving forward to get those plans moving along so we can get that boat ramp done, finally get it dug out and repaved and have the emergency access only for that. So he is working on that. I think that's all I have here. Oh, he is also going to take care of the permit for the waterfront park structure. Harry is going to do that. We can't have the gazebo there without a permit. He says it's a very easy permitting process. It just needs to be submitted for a structure. It's not a big deal at all. So I think that's all I have.
I hope
one
that
more
wasn't a
thing.
jinx right there.
No, he assured me it was fine. The fence at the Field of Dreams that's going to go along the street is ordered and will be installed in mid to late July. It's just a little, I think, 2-foot fence that just prevents people from parking on the event lawn. And then it's going to jut out at the softball field about 20 feet in, so people can actually park there for overflow parking. They can park on the lawn. So that fence will be installed mid to late July. That's all I have.
Good.
All right.
Good job.
Let's see. It's been a busy month. Let's see. Since the last update on May 20th, I attended at Pearson School. They had a flag dedication ceremony. Mike was there for that as well. A new flag donated by Senator Singleton and Congressman Kim. That was back on May 23rd. We had the Memorial Day parades we participated in. I was in Delanco and Riversides with the fire company on the 25th and 26th. Fire Commission meeting on May 28th. We had normal business. I attended the drama club's play at Walnut Street School. That was on May 30th. The kids were absolutely wonderful, and especially my son. I have to throw that out there. But all the kids did a great job. And can't say anything bad about the show. Everyone loved it. I attended our Public Works Subcommittee on June 6th. Met with Fern on the 7th. We went through the sign ordinance. That's later on the agenda tonight. Attended the pre-con for the Zerberg seawall, or the historic waterfront park seawall, on the 11th. And the library subcommittee with Mike that evening. Then we attended the library board meeting afterwards. So it was a fun-filled day. I attended the retirement luncheon for Bob Hudnall. He's spent, I think it was almost, 30 years with us? So it's going to be
26.
hard. 26, all right.
Yeah.
Don't want to give him too much there. But he's done great for our town. I forget who I said this to, but you know, he's always in his office back there. We don't need to say, hey, Bob, what's going on with this? It just gets done. You know, you never have to double check what Bob's doing. It just gets done. So, and he's served our town great for the last 26 years.
I don't even know he's here.
You don't even know he's here until he wanders out to use the copier or something. There he is. Hey, Bob. But you know, congrats to him. Later that evening, I attended the Crossings HOA meeting that we were invited to. I attended the 5th grade lead graduation at Pearson School. As Mike mentioned, Sergeant Deering, he does a really good job with those kids. They look up to him, they respect him, and you know, nowadays you need kids to start respecting the law enforcement before they get into older teenagers and young adults, because we see how that works out otherwise. And this program here that Rob does with these students, can't speak highly enough of him. I attended the Delanco History Board's open house on June 15th. I attended our code enforcement subcommittee meeting on the 19th, then the Board of Ed meeting later that evening, and as Mike said, even if you don't have any kids in the district, get your butts out, go to the Board of Ed meeting, know what's going on in this community, in our schools. Every meeting, it's normally the same people there, which is great that everyone who normally goes there is there, but it would be even better if more people go. Learn what's going on in your school district. Same thing here, and I love that everybody's here. It's usually the same cast of characters who come to watch our township committee meeting, except we have some new guests in the front row this evening. Thank you for coming. But, we'd love if people come out to our meetings as well, just to learn what's going on in your community. I know we have open access now on YouTube, so you could watch it if you can't attend, but it's always great to attend, so you could ask the questions in person, same at our school boards. Where else? And then finally, last night, we had the big storm run through town, and so did I, doing the preliminary damage assessment for our Office of Emergency Management. We had a lot of down trees, a lot of wires down. We had a resident who lost the gazebo on the Delaware River, which was a shame. So there was definitely a lot through town. I spent a good portion of today on the phone with Public Service, trying to get them out there to address the issue on Delaware Avenue, over by Cedar and Willow Streets, with some primary lines that went down last night that I babysat for an hour while we got that coned off. So it was a busy day trying to get the town back in one piece. We had our Public Works guys out. They were out last night. Every one of them came into work. Thank you to Mr. Fenimore for getting that taken care of last night, to just try to pick up all that brush and tree limbs and everything else that got blown down last night. And again, about 4 p.m. today with the wind that came through, for them to pick up again tomorrow. So that was my month in a nutshell. One more thing before we get back to the agenda. We have a proclamation. We were going to read this at the History Board open house for Babe Ruth Day. However, due to the, we forgot. That's the reason we didn't. So I'm going to read this now. This is the Township of Delanco Proclamation 100th Anniversary, which is July 1st, 2024, Babe Ruth Day. Whereas July 1st, 2024 marks the 100th anniversary of that famous day in Delanco history when baseball star Babe Ruth made his mark for all time on our town. And whereas 5,000 spectators, which is just about the number of residents we have in this town right now, came from far and wide to the little town of Delanco the night of July 1st, 1924, to see George Herman Ruth, the Babe, the mightiest slugger of all time. And whereas their hearts tripped hammered in the height of joy when the Bambino clouted the horsehide into the realm of space beyond. Who wrote this? Beyond the top of the right field fence.
Janice is good at writing.
Good job, Bev. Whereas Ruth was responsible for all of Delanco's runs, and whereas the Babe hit 2 hits, a double and a homer, scored 2 runs, and to the crowd's delight, pilfered third base. And whereas it was on his 3rd trip to the plate that the Sultan of SWAT did his stuff. And whereas pitcher Sweeney worked the Babe into 3-2 count, the next pitch was a little high, but it was in Babe's groove as he socked it into a terrific thump. I felt like I was here, right at that game reading this. Yeah. And the pellet sailed far and away over the fence in the right field for the first time in history of the Delanco Park. And whereas the Bambinos' homer wins for Delanco over the Burlington County Stars 4-2, and whereas this historic day in Delanco ended with a dinner in honor of Babe Ruth by the Athletic Association, accompanied by Trainer Woods of the Yankees, whereby a lad named by the name of Hecker Wilson appeared at the dinner table in quest of Ruth's signature on the home run ball, and as usual was successful. Whereas big days will come and go in the lives of Burlington County sports fans, but Babe Ruth Day in Delanco on July 1st, 1924 will never be forgotten by those who were there. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Matthew Bartlett, Mayor of the Township of Delanco and the County of Burlington and State of New Jersey, do hereby proclaim July 1st, 2024 as the 100th anniversary celebration of Delanco Babe Ruth Day. So this historic sporting event will live on in the memory of one of Delanco's finest hours for all to come. So that was a great job writing this, Bev. Okay.
Bev and Janice. I think Janice wrote it.
I think we
Janice
used
did
every,
that
I think we used every name. No, she threw it at Bev.
No, I was just being facetious. Actually, historically, yes, Babe Ruth did play a baseball game here in Delanco, but actually, with some minor edits over the years, this proclamation has been utilized for many, many years.
Yes.
Its original author, if I may,
Please.
was Richard Mueller.
Yes.
Dick
Dick
Mueller.
Mueller, yeah.
Yeah.
He
Mueller did
was
that. Good for him.
recreation chairman at the time, I think.
Oh, yes.
When
Yeah.
we had the first
Phil
Babe
made it.
Ruth Day here, I think I was on recreation then, way back when. Phil, were you on then, when Dick Mueller was the chairman? Yeah,
It was just, you're right.
Yeah,
He
Cheryl.
Was Phil at that game?
I think Dick was considered Mr. Recreation. He
Yeah.
started tennis leagues and bowling league, all kinds of things.
Everything.
And actually, that's the pavilion out at Field of Dreams is named in his
Right.
honor. So
Right.
that is, to give credit where credit is due, Mr. Mueller, Dick Mueller is, responsible for the writing of that.
Responsible in a good way.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
And he made
Yes.
sure to use every name possible you could give the Babe.
Everything Bambino, Sultan of SWAT, and
George
on it.
Herman Ruth, his full name, the
Yeah.
Babe.
Yeah, a lot of history in that
Bambino.
proclamation.
Well, great job reading it, Matt, because I
Yes.
felt like I was there watching the game.
Yes.
So did I.
Take me out to the ball game.
And there will be a Babe Ruth Day game this year. It's September the
7th, I think.
Something like that, September 7th.
Yeah.
We'll go for that, and it will be the 100th anniversary of the game. So we look forward to seeing everybody out there. Yep.
Mayor, I got one item I forgot.
Sure.
This is the power of one phone call. Back on May 22nd, I had composed a letter I was going to send to the county commissioners and various legislators and mayors of the river towns about the loud noise that comes from Philadelphia from these boom car parties and stuff, mainly down at Pleasant Hill Park on Linden Avenue in Philadelphia, a public park down there. And anyway, wrote this letter and thought this would be a good time. We seem to have a mayor in Philadelphia, Mayor Sherrell Parker, that's very aggressive and focusing on quality of life issues and, trying to direct the limited resources of her city into various things, cleanup or addressing the ATV trail bikes and all kinds of issues that her city is dealing with now. But I thought this was a good opportunity if we could get a coalition of our legislators and the county and mayors together and approach the Philadelphia mayor with this. Anyway, I wasn't quite sure what to do with it after I wrote the letter, and I called Senator Singleton's office. His chief of staff is Jennifer Dajian, who I've dealt with for many years, and she's easy to talk to and always, straight shooter. And anyway, I outlined what I'd written, and I thought it was a good idea and so forth. And she said, well, let me think about it. So this past week, June 18th, Senator Singleton put out a press release, and there was a joint letter that had the county commissioners and Senator Singleton and Assemblyman Conaway and Assemblywoman Murphy and so forth, all a joint letter to Mayor Parker citing the issue with this loud noise that affects all the river towns and all the way deep into Mount Laurel and Morristown even. She forwarded that press release to me, and I think that got distributed and so forth. And then the next day, the 19th, that was the big story on Action News. It was a front page item there. So, and I got a thank you note later from Jennifer for the idea there, but sometimes a phone call helps. So anyway, hopefully something will be addressed, and Mayor Parker in Philadelphia can, it's just like an officer pulling someone over for speeding. It tends to have a much greater impact than that individual citation, that people see someone gets nabbed or gets a citation or not. But you see that a cop's pulled over and the lights are flashing and said, I'm going to slow down there, and I'll probably do that next week too. So anyway, just wanted to toss that out, and that's...
I certainly hope there is some light to the end of this tunnel, because Cinnaminson Chief Rich Calabrese has attempted to get this taken care of with the Philadelphia Police Department. 5 years.
Yeah, at least.
Yep.
Retired
Yeah,
chief.
and
I said retired, right?
Calabrese?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
He
in
just
here.
retired.
Yeah, he just retired
Yeah.
last month.
Yeah, he's done.
Yep.
It's been in the
Palmyra
inquiry.
deals with it all day
Yeah.
long. People from Palmyra call the 15th all day long.
I call,
Yeah,
I've called, I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many times, but they
Frustrating.
have reported it in the Inquirer, the letter that was sent, and the mayor's received it, so, I mean, they're working on it. Let's see what
Let's see if they do something.
success they have. I think it's hopefully a good thing.
Right. You know what? You throwing one more thing in reminded me I have one more thing. We've been dealing with this bridge flooding for God knows how long now. I noticed during my drive over the weekend that the county just started installing road flooded signs in Riverside. Wait for it, Mike. Right in front of the Watch Case building, just before you get to the flooded road. And they also just put the posts up in Delanco. The signs aren't on it yet, but it's the same posts. Right at the crossing at Lou's Deli and right at the bend by the flashy light.
Behind
So
a tree.
basically, yeah, behind a tree.
You can't
But
even see it.
basically, they put it where
Is it gonna-
it doesn't need to
what
go.
does
It should be
say?
back by the traffic light to divert traffic down Coopertown
gonna be
Road,
flashing?
or Cooper Street, so you don't go to the bridge and go through the residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
But
Did they talk to
apparently,
you guys about that? You didn't know about it, right?
Chief might have, I don't know.
We didn't know.
no, no,
He may have, I don't know.
yeah, it was, no, I spoke to the chief on Friday. He didn't know about
They
it
just
either.
do what they want.
And
Yeah, they do.
basically, the county just helped us out by
Yeah.
doing what they do best. So I wrote an email to Joe Brickley
what
of the
they
county
were doing in
engineer's
Burlington
office
Avenue
today
today.
to see if they could put it where it actually should belong,
It's effective.
in the area of the BP gas station, each direction, to send cars either up Burlington Avenue or down
Right.
Cooper Street. So we'll see where that goes.
So were they doing it today? I saw them on Burlington Avenue today.
I didn't see them out today. They had the posts up on,
I saw
over
them
the
on Burlington
weekend.
Avenue today, and I wondered what they were doing.
There's been a lot of people in Burlington. Public
No,
Service
it was,
was out.
it was
the
the
county?
county. It was the
Maybe-
county.
I haven't driven down that part today.
It was Burlington Avenue.
I've lived on Delaware Avenue today, so
Yeah.
it's
Literally can't see it until
Yeah,
you come up on it.
What's it
because
say?
it's behind a tree.
Road
right?
flooded.
Yeah, road flooded when flashing or something, right?
yeah, road flooded when flashing. So when you get to the bridge, it's going to be closed. You'll know it's because the road was flooded.
And then you have to turn at Lou's real quick, or you have to turn at Rancocas.
Right. So
Yeah.
it made no
No
sense.
sense. You'll know by the time you get there, because you'll see the cones anyway.
Yeah. So it should have been way back. So
Yeah. Oh,
we'll
well.
see if we can get this fixed.
Common sense.
More,
Not so
not so
common.
common. All right. Consent agenda items. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted with a single motion. Any item requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. All consent agenda items will be reflected in full in the minutes. Does anyone have any questions or need anything pulled from the consent agenda?
No.
No,
Very short tonight. All right.
excuse me.
Resolution 2024-98, disposal of out-of-service office equipment. Resolution 2024-99, resolution appointing temporary chief financial officer pursuant to NJSA 40A:9-140.13 at SEEK. Resolution 2024-100, award of bid and contract for the installation of sports field lighting at the Field of Dreams in Delanco Township. Resolution 2024-101, authorizing extension of the third quarter taxes pursuant to NJSA 54:4-66.3, Amulet D. Payment of bills. Current fund, $2,295,669.52. Payroll, $113,700.45. The Dog Trust Fund, $690. Escrow Trust, $4,789.55. Housing Trust, $380. Approval of minutes from the April 15th, May 6th, and May 20th meetings, and approval of department reports. Can I have a motion, please, for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Carolyn, and second by Mike. A roll call, please.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Sues?
Yes.
Mr. Templeton?
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett?
Yes. Correspondence, please, Janice.
I actually, let me see this. I have none for this meeting, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Have any baseball box scores to report on?
Well, no,
How those Phils doing?
not today.
All right, meeting is now open to the public for comments and questions. This is session number 2. As before, if you have any comments or questions, please approach the podium and give your name and address for the record. Meeting's now open to the public.
Okay,
That's
cool.
very
See,
good
there you
news.
go.
Thank you, Mr.
They
McNeil.
must have heard you.
Somebody make a
7 to
safety
1?
back from Detroit.
7 to 1, top of the 8th? Oh, World Series, here we come.
In the old days, we would have said, not good enough.
Thank you, Mike.
Now we have confidence.
Casey at the bat.
All right, we will close this public session and discussion items. One item on the agenda tonight is proposed amendments to the sign ordinance. And this has been something that it's been in place since, I'm going to say 21, when Taylor Design Group and the Planning Board came up with these revised sign ordinance revisions. We have a sign ordinance subcommittee, which has been Mr. Olet and myself. And as we mentioned at the last meeting, we drove through town, looked at the variety of different types of signage through town, looked at what currently complies with our sign ordinance, what doesn't comply with our sign ordinance, what our sign ordinance should encompass and what it should not encompass. I think we did a pretty good job of coming up with some suggested revisions. Anything you want to add in there, Fern?
As we drove around and looking at the signage and looking at the ordinance, we tried to take a realistic approach to where signage is. The one that comes to mind that something as simple as, we're not supposed to talk politics, but we have political signs that come out at election day, or, election time, and how we handle those, there's a 10-foot setback, and then different setbacks for different signage. As we went through the ordinance, we tried to streamline everything to 7 feet, and number of signs, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. So as we went through the revisions that we have in the ordinance, and now we're asking the rest of the committee to take a look at this and to the revisions that we've made, give it some, read through it, give it some thought, come back to us, and see what we may have missed, or maybe we overstepped our bounds.
Well, I'm gonna have to send you I'll send everybody the version that's in color. It'll probably be easier
It's
to
hard
read.
yeah.
Looks like the black and whites were sent out.
Oh.
But yeah, because Taylor had some revisions originally, and that's the ones that are in.
online one's got the,
Oh, you have it? Great.
yeah, that's the agenda.
That's the original one.
That's the agenda in the agenda packet that was
There's color in
emailed
the
out.
agenda.
And you have the ones with the yellow highlights? and all
Yeah,
that?
I don't have, I didn't have it in color.
Okay, yeah, you do have that. All right,
It's hard
good.
to read. 7 feet.
7 feet off the curb line?
From the curb line, yeah. Curb line.
Oh, okay, because I have to check that out, 'cause 7 feet could be my porch.
So it's like the 3 feet between the curb and the sidewalk, and
I
then the
don't have a
sidewalk.
sidewalk,
Yeah.
so I don't have that.
Right,
7 feet.
and in some cases, previously it was 10 feet.
Yeah, I
So,
know.
but we put in
It's like
there.
maybe 5
uh,
on my part.
Yeah, we put in there if the distance between the edge of the street paving and the edge of the dwelling or building or the structure is less than the 7 feet, the sign shall be permitted at a lesser distance as may be required. And that's not just for political signs, that's
Right,
for
anything,
like
yeah. So
house
that-
for sale sign, things like
Okay.
that.
So leave it open for
Yeah.
interpretation.
And I only remember that because when I had a house for sale on Buttonwood Street back in 2005, the houses on Buttonwood Street are right on the sidewalk, and the code enforcement officer at the time took my sign because it was where it could be, right between the curb and the
Right.
sidewalk, because there was nowhere, you may remember that,
I
because you
know.
were on committee.
I do,
There was no
yeah.
place to put the sign at the time, so we took it because it violated the ordinance, but there was literally nowhere to put it
I know, I
without
read
the
the
sign
whole
being in my
thing.
living room.
And that's
So
great.
that was just one of the idiosyncrasies of the ordinance that we're trying to fix. So things like that don't happen. Yeah, we did. Yep, we had the
I didn't
feather
see
signs in
that.
there.
I looked for it, I couldn't find it.
Somewhere.
Yeah, I couldn't find that.
Yeah, there's a section of, we took a look at feathered signs. Was it come up underneath awnings? Or-
Oh, was that considered under the awnings?
It might
It's
be.
not an awning.
No, it's in,
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
no, number 5, the exemption, the end of B, little numeral 5. If you're on the papers that are in the packet, it's the back side of the first page of it. Right, yeah, the last sentence up there, Kate.
Oh, okay.
What's the paragraph reference?
11017B, the new one is 5. Yeah, 5, the end of 5. Right there, right at the end of it. Highlighted in yellow.
It says do not one per business? What does
Do not
that mean?
exceed.
Oh.
Fern mentioned that earlier, we missed a word.
And if they're in a corner situation, couldn't they have one on each?
Yep, that's what it says there, 1 per
Okay.
business per street frontage.
Okay, now I understand it better.
Yeah, I'm fine with
It
this.
works better with the word exceed.
Yeah, it does, yeah. Yeah, I read through
Matt,
it
on the
twice.
real
I
estate
think you
sign.
did a nice
here,
job.
We have a
Oh, my God, what a
5
nightmare
foot,
this,
5 square
was.
feet,
Yes.
so that's like 2.5 by 2.5? Or
2 by 3.
2 by, no, it'd be 6,
2 by 3?
something like that. We measured actual real estate signs, and the 4 square feet that's currently in there doesn't exist for a standard real estate sign, so 5 seemed to be the happy medium of all the standards that are out there.
Okay.
Not that I think anyone is going out there measuring a real estate sign, but we should.
Be as close.
We should be as close as possible and, do things that are actual real world as opposed to something that just is an arbitrary number.
Yeah, the same size as the political signs, aren't
Yeah, but give or take.
they? Yeah.
Well, the one thing on the commercial industrial real estate signs, real estate signs should not exceed 16 square feet on each side.
So 4 by 4 sign, sheet of plywood.
Like the one that's out, half sheet of plywood, yeah.
But 16 square feet on a side doesn't make sense.
Where are we here?
What number?
Under paragraph, let's see, 12D, commercial industrial real estate
There it is.
signs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the language that Taylor came up with.
Yeah. Should not exceed an area of 16 square feet, not 16 square feet on a side.
On each
That-
side.
Oh, yeah, it's not exceed an area of 16 square feet. Right.
And there's
Oh,
a
up here.
similar language
An
in
area. Take this one side
the
out.
paragraph above it, residential, 5 square feet on each side. 5 square feet in area.
An area, yeah. Yeah, we fixed it, there was a couple other things like that in the ordinance where
5
a
square
unit of
feet.
measure was left out. Or
Yeah. And I would suggest, I don't like feather flag
see.
banners, but anyway, it's here. But I would put that
5
under, under a separate paragraph, because, well, take that back.
And then, just so you're aware, the numbering of the new paragraph numbers, I just couldn't get into edit in Word. It's the, like, for example, the no sign other than street traffic, that, it's not 7, it's little 6. It'll be,
You had trouble editing in Word?
with the automatic numbering, yes.
Oh, it's a pain.
It
Oh my
really
God,
is.
it's awful.
It'll be perfected in the final version.
I'll get my red pen out.
All right, we'll look at it
All right.
and forward our comments.
Very good. And just for procedural wise, once we have it in procedure wise, he tried to say, once it's in final form, Janice, we would refer it to the Joint Land Use Board for consistency, correct? Or send it back to them with our edits since it originated from them?
Well, the consistency review is after you introduce the ordinance,
Okay.
officially, and it's, would go for, if it qualifies it, for master plan consistency review. So, but if you wanted them to review it before you introduce it, you can just send it back to them
No.
formally,
No,
or,
I don't see a reason for that.
you know.
they did this.
'Cause they came up with it, we
Right.
fixed it.
So what you would do, if you didn't want to do that, you would, when you're ready to introduce, this has to be put in the,
Ordinance form.
ordinance form. You would introduce it on first reading by title only, set a public hearing date, and then what provision? So you are, yes, it would have to go to the Joint Land Use Board for a consistency review.
Right.
And that would have to happen prior to the second reading and public hearing, and then
So
adoption.
we'll work on the timing of that and figure it out.
Right.
Their July meeting's canceled, so
Okay.
we have August.
Yeah, so maybe if we, if
Maybe we
everyone
could
could
do
get
it.
our comments back to Fern and myself this
Yeah.
week, we could get this on our
July,
July
if you-
agenda for first read.
If we get it into ordinance form.
Right.
And then, I believe the July meeting, well, the June 27th meeting is canceled. What is the next meeting that,
So we can get it on
July
we can do it on
15th.
our
and
August.
it would be August,
So get it
wouldn't
on your July 15th meeting.
it? The August 6th?
That's-
So if we do it July 15th,
You introduce it on July 15th, and then it goes to them to August.
There used to be a calendar, right?
Okay. We'll figure out the time, but if everyone can get their comments back to us, then we'll work with
Yeah,
Janice and Doug and get this done.
yeah. So if you introduce the 15th, it would be referred to the planning board for its August 6th meeting. And then you could adopt on the 19th of August.
Okay.
Public hearing on 19th
All
of
right, we could
August.
shoot for that, and we'll see how we make out. Very good. Thank you very much.
All right, Richard's tired.
Richard's tired. Does anyone have anything else before we send Richard to count some sheep?
No.
All right,
Wrap
then
this
I
up.
will, I don't think we need an executive session. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
second.
Oh, thank God, someone seconded that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Wait, you didn't have, I didn't even realize you were here tonight. You don't have anything?
He just melts into the chair.
Have a good night, everybody.
Hawk Island's gonna be,